Greetings to all our learners. Welcome to CEC lecture. Dear learners, the topic that we shall deliberate upon is economic realms and human security. In this lecture, we shall attempt to analyze the relevance of human security for issues in international politics. We shall discuss how economic security, which is a very important concept of the component of the concept of human security, it demands greater policy coherence both domestically as well as internationally. In this lecture, we shall try to understand the links between human security and economic security, look at issues of employment, development, poverty and inequalities as to how they have a bearing for economic security. Albert Einstein said, "Not until the creation and maintenance of decent conditions of life for all people are recognized and accepted as a common obligation of all people and all countries. Not until then shall we, with a certain degree of justification, be able to speak for humankind as civilized." Close quotes, rightly said Albert Einstein. Dear learners, this concept has a bearing with the General Assembly Resolution 66/290, that is human security. Human security is an approach to assist the member states in identifying and addressing widespread cross-cutting challenges to the survival, livelihood and dignity of the people. Close quotes, as said the resolution of UN General Assembly 66/290 on human security. So the idea that one gets here is that the concept of human security calls for people-centered, comprehensive, context-specific, prevention-oriented responses that strengthen the protection and empowerment of all people. Human security, as we are understanding it, one gets the sense that it calls for integrated actions because it's calling for promoting multi-stakeholder partnership, having a people-centered approach to security. The focus here when we talk about human security, dear learners, it is just not on military security. The focus is on a broad canvas, that is freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom from indignity. The 1994 report, that is the report wherein which the concept of human security was introduced. It introduced the concept of human security. This has been contrasted with the traditional concept of security. It equates security with people rather than just abstract entities of state and the bigger picture of territories. It looks at development rather than arms. Increasing human security entails, as we read from a very important document, that is from the Human Development Report 1994 by UNDP, that is increasing human security entails investing in human development, engaging policymakers to address the emerging peace dividend, giving United Nations a clear mandate to promote and sustain development, enlarging the concept of development cooperation so that it includes all flows, not just aid, agreeing that 20% of national budgets and 20% of foreign aid be used for human development, establishing Economic Security Council. Once again, we are quoting from UNDP 1994 Human Development Report, that is New Dimensions of Human Security. So what we see here is when we talk about human security, dear learners, we must keep into mind that there are 7 issues associated with human security: economic security, food security, health security, environmental security, personal security, community security, political security. Economic security implies looking at unemployment, working out to remove job insecurity, economic inequality, inflation, underdeveloped social security, homelessness, all of which have an aspect of insecurities with the human beings. Food security, looking at problems of physical and economic access to food. Health security, looking at threats to life and health and inadequate access to health services. Environmental security, degradation of ecosystem, pollution of water, air and soil are aspects taken into consideration. Personal security, physical violence, war, discrimination, domestic violence, child abuse. Community security, that is ethnic tensions and violent conflicts. Political security, that is state repression and violation of human rights, are the aspects looked upon when we try to once again read from the UNDP 1994 report on various dimensions of human security. Dear learners, there's been a debate when we talk about human security that whether the concept of human security is akin to a radical departure in foreign policy. Further, there may be doubts that this may be contrary to national interest. Then to add to that, the human security is related to several other aspects. One of the related concepts is that of human development. That is, human security is the ability to enjoy fruits of human development in a safe environment. And human development is the means for creating human security. So what we see here is that the two initiatives, namely freedom from fear and freedom from want, that is human security and human development, are complementary. Another related aspect to that of human security is that of human rights, wherein Article 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights affirms that everyone has the right to life, liberty and security of person. Taking our learning forward, when we look at the Commission on Human Security that was established in January 2001, Human Security Now, that was the first report of this commission. It was published in 2003. According to this report, the concept of human security seeks to protect vital core of all human lives in ways that enhance human freedoms and human fulfillment. The report also adds that freedom to live in dignity is vital to the objectives of human security, which therefore means respecting basic principles of democracy, rule of law, human rights, freedoms. Another important report, A More Secure World 2004, at the United Nations Secretary General High-Level Panel on Threats, Challenges and Change, that is, threats endangering national security and security of individuals are connected. There is a greater need for better cooperation, greater necessity for approaches that will cover both human and national security issues. Another report, In Larger Freedom Towards Development, Security and Human Rights for All. In this report also, there are some very important remarks, and we state that freedom from fear, freedom from deprivation, freedom to live in dignity are given as the basic elements of human security. Also, security cannot be achieved without development, and that conversely development cannot be attained without security. The General Assembly Resolution, once again 66/290, it was an important milestone in the 20-year evolution of the implementation of human security within the UN system. In 2012, on the same line, the General Assembly adopted UN resolution entitled Follow up to the paragraph 143 on human security of 2005 World Summit Outcome. Now, when we are looking at this resolution, one gets the sense that human security has been defined as an approach to assist member states in identifying and addressing widespread and cross-cutting challenges to the survival, livelihood, dignity of the people. Now, dear learners, it is very essential that as we are trying to understand human security, economic realms are very important. For example, when we look at the issue of poverty, poverty in the global realms has many causes. War, which leads to halt in the production of factories, growing of crops, working in mines. Another cause of poverty is the corruption. Another related aspect of which is there for understanding causes of poverty are natural disasters, unemployment, absence of social services. Now, when we try to situate economic realms while understanding human security, one must bear into account that how wars, corruption, natural disasters, unemployment, absence of social services, how all of them have a bearing on humans' quest for livelihoods, humans' access to basic living standard. Another aspect that we must ponder over while understanding economic realms of human security is that of global inequality. With inadequate access to clean water and nutritious food, reports of people having little or no access to livelihoods and jobs, issues of conflicts pertaining to wealth and resources, issues of inequality, poor education, climate change, lack of infrastructure, limited capacity of the government, all of it present an issue wherein one nation is pitted in a manner where it is at a lesser standing as compared to nations where food, employment, jobs are available. So, what one gets the sense here is that living standards vary significantly, not only across the globe but as well as within the countries also. This is why inequalities and especially global inequality is an important aspect that one must ponder over while understanding economic security. Further, in the debate on economic security, one has to also factor in that there is a development divide, both with reference to existence of natural resources, geographic locations, and the economic systems, related levels of infrastructure and education. That is, some countries have lot of natural resources, whereas other countries may not have. Some countries have high levels of development, other countries may not have. Further, what we are trying to say that there are various types of economic inequality: income inequality, pay inequality, wealth inequality are some of the types of economic inequality. And when we look at the inequality perspective both at nation state and global arena, one gets the sense that how individuals they bear the brunt because of all these kinds of economic inequality. Related to this aspect of inequality, one gets the sense that globalization heralded a new world order wherein there was trade, integration, interconnectedness. But at the same time, one also had the other side, that there was inequality through the effects of trade, where workers adversely were affected by trade liberalization. There have been news that how real wages come under downward pressure and inequality increases. But at the same time, one must also take into account an important caution here, that international trade's impact on income inequality is mixed. So, dear learners, we must take into account that globalization led to benefits. But at the same time, one can also not ignore the negative aspects of globalization, wherein workers were affected, wages were affected, and all of it has a bearing on economic avenues, opportunities available to the individual. The dependency theory is an important perspective to understand the power struggle and levels of development in the realm of global politics. The dependency theory, in the work of Samir Amin and A.G. Frank and others, it highlights how resources flow from the periphery of the poor and underdeveloped states to the core of wealthy states, enriching the latter at the expense of the former. Similarly, related to the aspect of economic security, one must also understand that how Immanuel Wallerstein developed the world systems theory and its three-level hierarchy, namely core, periphery and semi-periphery. The world system theory is an approach to social analysis and social change, and it also highlights that how global system had a stratified structure on inequality based on institutionalized exploitation, and how this unequal structure, institutionalized exploitation have an impact on the individual well-being, and this cannot be neglected because this has a bearing with reference to national interest also. A very important book by Shrahabanu Tajbash and Anuradha Chenoy, that is Human Security Concepts and Implications, from Routledge 2007. Now this book presents very important case studies from Afghanistan, Central Asia, South Asia, and it presents important insights into issues of development, conflict resolution, human rights, humanitarian assistance. So in a globalizing world in which threats have become transnational and states exist with non-state actors, security can no longer be studied in a one-dimensional fashion. Another important book, dear learners, that we must factor in our learning is that by George Neff, Human Security and Mutual Vulnerability, the Global Political Economy of Development and Underdevelopment, from International Development Research Center, Canada, 1999. Now this book, it looks towards framework perspective, which is presenting to us an interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary analysis. It involves the concept of world system comprising elements like ecology, economy, society, polity, culture. It analyzes human security and dysfunction of all of each element of these elements. Dear learners, another important book that we must take into account is IR, International Economic and Human Security in a Changing World. Now it explains that how there are challenges to the idea of anarchy, looking at diversity today, factoring in complexity today, and all of it, these multitude of events have a bearing on the composition of the world today, and this definitely has a bearing on what really accounts for security today. Another important work, dear learners, that we must take into account is by E. Saleh, World Orders, Development and Transformation. The work points out that there are hegemonic development ideas and practices that emerged in the context of the changing world order post 1945, and this transformation has been characterized by neoliberalism as well as the same time with securitization of development and security. Another important book that we must take into account is that of For a General Concept of Economic and Human Security. Now in this book there is this very important analysis that today international security is a constant threat to the pursuit of economic optimum. In the traditional economic analysis history, states are seen as agents in constant search for power, which leads to emergence of conflicts of interest. However, when we look at that, how the modern concept of security can be defined as the economic study of all risk of short, medium and long term on the functioning of economic and social life. Human security implies multidisciplinary analysis, which includes human rights, state organization, international relations, strategic studies, amongst others. So, dear learners, human security implies a people-centered approach. It is founded on the fundamental principle of centrality of the individual. Now, this individual exists in various realms, and economic realms are indeed very important here. So, when we look at poverty, global inequality, divide with respect to economic avenues and resources available, structural inequalities, and the related process of domination and marginalization, no doubt interconnectedness defines the various aspects of the present day world. But what is essential here is that one must factor in that how deprivation in economic realms is a cause of insecurity. One must broaden the perspective of security from just mere focus on military towards looking at how denial of economic revenues, denial of resources is a form of crude insecurity for the individual, which has a bearing for the respective nation states' national interests. Therefore, human security and the focus on related economic realms are very relevant in present day international dialogue. We hope, dear learners, that the lecture on economic realms and human security presented to you significant insights. We look forward to positive, encouraging feedback from you all. Thank you very much.